I want you to imagine something for a second. What if, right now, your thoughts are literally shaping your reality?
And we don't mean that as a metaphor, by the way.
Right, not a metaphor at all. Like, what if your bank account, your relationships, your stress levels are just a direct, literal reflection of your internal state?
It's a heavy thought.
It is. And back in 2006, millions of people bought into this idea when they were told that if they just thought about $1 million hard enough, it would, magically appear in their living room.
Yeah. And spoiler alert for anyone who tried it.
It didn't happen.
No, it did not. But the crazy thing is, neuroscientists are now discovering that the core premise behind that whole cultural obsession, the idea that your thoughts architect your physical reality, it's actually real.
It's entirely real. It's just, it's not magic, it's biology.
Which I think is a far more empowering way to look at it, to be honest.
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, relying on the universe to just drop a briefcase of cash on your lap leaves you, entirely passive.
All right, you're just waiting around. But understanding the actual neurological levers inside your own skull, that gives you absolute agency.
And that is exactly the mission of our deep dive today. We've got this fascinating stack of source material that basically takes a scalpel to that massive 2006 phenomenon, The Secret.
We are officially throwing out the magical thinking today.
Yes, throwing it out. We're stripping this entire concept down to the hard science. We want to look at what that original cultural moment completely missed, why most people fail miserably when they try to, manifest change, and how you can actually use these biological mechanisms to rebuild your reality.
I love it.
So, okay, let's unpack this. We probably need to start by grounding ourselves in what that original claim actually was. Right?
Yeah, just so we know exactly what we're dismantling here. So the entire 2006 phenomenon rested on the law of attraction.
Yeah. Like attracts like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the formula they sold was just dangerously simple. It was basically your thoughts create your emotions send out this invisible vibration.
It's a vibration, right.
Yeah, and that vibration acts like a magnet, pulling similar experiences back to you. So the promise was that sitting in your bedroom thinking, I am successful, would literally summon success to your doorstep.
And I gotta say, I am bringing a massive dose of skepticism to that specific claim, and I know anyone listening is doing the exact same thing.
Oh, of course.
Because if the universe worked on a direct thought equals instant reality transaction, every chronic overthinker on the planet would be a billionaire by now.
Right.
Instead, chronic overthinking usually just generates chronic anxiety.
It really does. And that is the single most glaring omission in that original teaching. Our sources highlight this uncomfortable truth right out of the gate. Thinking alone does absolutely nothing to alter your external environment.
It's like that couch potato analogy from the text, which I thought was hilarious. You can't just sit on the couch eating chips and say, I am attracting a six-pack body.
Right. The only six-pack coming is the one from the fridge.
Exactly. So if thinking alone doesn't change your life and magical vibrations aren't pulling sports cars out of the ether, what is the actual biological bridge here? Let's bring in the science.
Okay, so the bridge begins with a very specific physical part of your brain called the reticular activating system.
The RAS.
The RAS. It's this little bundle of nerves located at your brainstem. And its entire job is basically to act as the ultimate bouncer for your consciousness.
Okay, a bouncer. How so?
Well, right now, as you're listening to this deep dive, your brain is being bombarded by millions of bits of sensory data. The temperature of the room, the hum of the refrigerator, the feeling of your clothes against your skin.
Which I wasn't noticing until you just said it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If your conscious mind had to process all of that simultaneously, you would experience a psychological collapse. It's too much data.
So the RAS filters out the noise to keep us sane.
Yes, and it filters out the noise based on a very specific set of parameters.
Yeah.
It only lets through information that is critical to your survival or, and this is the key part, information that you have actively programmed it to care about.
Ah. This is the classic red car syndrome, right? The sources bring this up as the perfect everyday example.
It really is the best way to understand it.
So to break it down for the listener, let's say you decide you want to buy a specific red car. You do your research, you lock in on the model. Suddenly you step out of your house and you see that exact red car everywhere.
Everywhere. On the highway, parked outside your office?
In every commercial break. And obviously thousands of red cars didn't just magically manifest in your city overnight.
No, they were always there. What changed was your internal filter. By focusing your conscious thoughts on that specific red car, you essentially gave your RAS a new directive.
You told the bouncer what to look for.
Exactly. Yeah. You told your brain's bouncer, hey, this item is now highly relevant to us. Let this data through the door. Your brain simply started noticing the opportunities and objects that were already in your environment.
Okay, but noticing a car is one thing. How does that translate into changing complex behaviors? Because seeing an opportunity doesn't mean I automatically have the skills or the drive to actually seize it.
Right, and that is where the second biological mechanism comes into play.
Yeah.
And I have to say, this is where the science gets incredibly profound. It's neuroplasticity.
The brain rewiring itself.
Yeah, the brain is not a static organ. It's malleable, it's plastic, and it's constantly remodeling itself based on how you use it.
Yeah.
Every single time you have a thought, a specific neural pathway fires in your brain.
And the sources emphasize that this isn't just a metaphor, right? Like this is physical matter changing shape.
Absolutely physical.
Yeah.
When a pathway fires repeatedly, the brain recognizes, like, oh, this route is being used frequently.
Okay.
So to make the process more efficient, the brain coats that specific neural pathway in a fatty substance called myelin.
Myelin, right.
Yeah. Myelation thickens the pathway, which makes the electrical signal travel faster and with less resistance. You are physically paving a dirt road into a superhighway.
Wait, so if my internal monologue is constantly looping on thoughts like, I'm terrible with money, or I always choke under pressure.
Then you are not just having a bad day, you are physically constructing a neural superhighway of failure.
Oh, wow. So my brain gets really good at failing.
You're optimizing your brain to prove yourself right. There's this concept called activation energy, which is basically the amount of friction or effort required to take a certain action.
Okay.
Thick, highly myelinated pathways have very low activation energy. They become your default automatic behaviors. So if you've wired your brain to believe you're incapable, the activation energy required to give up on a project is zero.
It's the path of least resistance.
Exactly.
But the inverse of that is staggering. Like if you repeatedly fire pathways of resilience or discipline or abundance, you are physically lowering the activation energy required to do difficult things tomorrow.
You are making success your default biological state. And what's fascinating here is that ancient traditions observed the results of this biological mechanism centuries before humanity had like fMRI machines to actually map it.
Oh, that's right. The sources pointed out how universal this understanding is across different cultures.
Yeah, they really did. The Bhagavad Gita states, a man is made by his belief. In Buddhist tradition, the core tenet is, what you think, you become.
And the Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius wrote, your mind shapes your reality.
Exactly. I mean, they lacked the modern vocabulary of neuroplasticity, but they mapped the exact same terrain.
They understood that you don't manifest an outcome by just wishing for it. You architect the physical mind of a person who naturally executes that outcome.
Precisely the point. Which honestly naturally leads us to a glaring contradiction we have to address.
Right, because if the hard science of neuroplasticity and thousands of years of ancient philosophy all perfectly align on the fact that repeated thoughts shape our physical reality, why is the failure rate so astronomical?
It's a great question.
Like, what does this all mean for the person who makes the vision board, reads all the books, repeats their daily affirmations, and still finds themselves stuck in the exact same dead-end job 5 years later?
Yeah, it's frustrating. The sources synthesize this frustration down to 4 distinct points of failure. These are basically the traps that swallow up the vast majority of people who attempt this.
Okay, let's go through them. What's failure number 1?
Failure number 1 is that they visualize, but they do not act. They build this beautifully detailed mental image of their goal, but they never cross the threshold into the physical world.
It's like the GPS analogy from the notes.
Oh, tell me.
It's like sitting in your driveway, typing a destination into your car's GPS, and then just refusing to shift the car out of park.
Yes.
The GPS knows exactly where to go, but without engaging the transmission, you're just burning gas in your driveway.
That is the perfect way to look at it. So that's the first one. Now, failure number 2 is utilizing affirmations without actual belief.
Oh, this happens all the time.
Right. People will stand in front of a mirror and chant, I am a millionaire, I am a millionaire, while their logical brain is simultaneously scanning their overdrawn bank account.
That honestly sounds like a recipe for psychological stress, not manifestation. Your brain is just calling your bluff.
It creates massive cognitive dissonance. You aren't wiring a new pathway of wealth. You're actually reinforcing the anxiety of being broke because the underlying emotion during that affirmation is panic.
Right. Which brings us to failure number 3, I assume.
Yes, failure number 3. Ignoring deep emotional blocks.
See, this one feels like the hidden iceberg that sinks most people. How do emotional blocks override daily positive thinking?
Well, surface-level thoughts are weak compared to deeply entrenched emotional trauma. You might be visualizing a promotion at work, but subconsciously, you might associate authority with an abusive parent. Or maybe you harbor a deep fear that success will alienate your current friends.
Oh, wow. So there's a conflict.
A huge conflict. The brain prioritizes safety above all else. If your subconscious views success as a threat to your social survival or emotional safety, it will actively self-sabotage your efforts.
No matter how many positive mantras you repeat.
Exactly.
The brain pulls the emergency brake to protect you from the very thing you're consciously trying to achieve. That is heavy.
It is.
And what about the fourth failure?
The fourth failure is the expectation of instant results. I mean, we live in an era of same-day delivery, and people try to apply that timeline to their own biology.
I really love the seed metaphor the sources use to illustrate how destructive this impatience is.
Yeah, explain that one.
So, expecting instant results from neuroplasticity is like going into your backyard, planting a seed in the ground, and then digging it up every single morning to check if it's growing.
You're literally killing it.
Exactly. The act of checking destroys the process. You expose the fragile new roots to the harsh air and kill them. You have to trust the dark, quiet process of the soil.
Neurologically speaking, rewiring just takes sustained time. You're attempting to build new, complex neural highways while simultaneously starving your old, heavily entrenched habits of attention so they wither away.
You can't rush the physical remodeling of your own gray matter.
You really can't.
So, if these four traps, the lack of action, the cognitive dissonance of fake affirmations, the subconscious self-sabotage, and the impatience, if these are what derail everyone, then we need a system to navigate around them.
Right.
And our sources actually provide a 5-step transformation formula that upgrades that broken 2006 model into a highly functional real-world protocol for our listeners.
Yes. And the protocol begins with step 1, clarity of identity. This completely flips the traditional script.
How so?
Well, most people start trying to change their lives by asking, what do I want? I want a better relationship, I want a higher salary, I want a nicer house.
Right, it's the consumer mindset. Give me things.
But the formula demands a much harder question. You have to stop asking, what do I want? And instead ask, who do I need to become?
Oh, I see.
If you want a highly successful business, you can not just desire the revenue. You have to ask yourself what the identity of a successful founder looks like. How do they handle failure? How do they structure their mornings?
You must adopt the identity first, so the outcome becomes a natural byproduct of who you are.
Exactly.
That eliminates the cognitive dissonance we talked about. You aren't lying to yourself about having $1 million. You're truthfully committing to becoming a disciplined person today.
Yes, which leads directly into step 2 and step 3. Step 2 is aligned thinking and emotion, and step 3 is repetition.
Okay, break those down.
This is where we charge the battery. Thoughts alone, like the actual words echoing in your head, carry very little electrical charge in the brain. Emotion is the actual power source. The limbic system, which processes emotion, is deeply tied to memory and habit formation.
So merely reciting "I am disciplined" is just making noise.
You have to generate the visceral bodily feeling of discipline. You have to feel the pride of having completed a hard task or the calm confidence of a leader right now in the present moment.
And then step 3 is repeating that.
Yes, you must repeat that emotional and mental combination relentlessly. Because repetition is what signals the brain to start producing myelin.
Yeah.
You are convincing your RAS and your neural pathways that this new emotional state is your baseline reality.
You're tuning the receiver.
Exactly.
But here's where it gets really interesting, because we hit the absolute make or break moment. Step 4 is aligned action. This is the bridge. This is shifting the car out of park.
Without step 4, the first 3 steps are just a sophisticated form of daydreaming.
Right.
The physical world requires physical movement. You've programmed your RAS to spot the red cars, the opportunities, but you still have to physically walk over, open the door, and get in the car.
Action is what provides the hard data to your brain that the new identity is real.
Exactly. When you take bold action, you send a massive signal back into your nervous system that validates the new neural pathways. You close the loop.
Okay, but wait. This brings us to step 5, and I have to push back hard here because this feels like a massive contradiction in the source material.
Uh-oh. Lay it on me.
Step 5 is attachment and trust. You just told me to adopt a fierce new identity, generate powerful emotions, and take bold, relentless action every single day.
Yeah.
Now, in the final step, you're telling me to detach and let go of the outcome. How do I aggressively pursue a goal while simultaneously not caring if I achieve it? Make it make sense.
Okay, I know it sounds like a paradox, but it is actually the secret mechanism that prevents self-sabotage. Detachment does not mean apathy. It doesn't mean you stop working.
Then what does it mean?
Detachment means you sever your emotional dependency on the timeline and the specific packaging of the result.
Unpack that. Why is depending on the timeline dangerous?
Because obsession breeds desperation. When you're desperately gripping the steering wheel, agonizing over why your goal hasn't manifested yet, you're operating from a profound state of lack.
You're focusing on what you don't have.
Right. You're screaming to your nervous system, I am currently separated from what I need to be happy. That desperation creates massive friction. It spikes cortisol, it shifts you out of the identity of abundance and right back into the identity of scarcity.
You're accidentally rewiring the brain for panic.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the sources offer this brilliant surfing metaphor to reconcile this tension for the listener. Think of this entire 5-step process like surfing.
Okay.
You cannot control the ocean. The ocean is chaotic, massive, and entirely indifferent to your timeline. You can't just yell at the water to produce a wave right now.
So if you paddle out and just wait passively, you drown. And if you aggressively try to punch the water into a wave, you just exhaust yourself.
Exactly. But what you can do is train relentlessly on the beach. You can study the tides, you can paddle out to the right position, and you can balance yourself perfectly on the board. You do all the intense, aggressive preparation.
Right.
But when you're out there, you have to surrender to the rhythm of the ocean. When the wave finally arrives, you don't force it, you simply align with its energy and ride it.
You prepare perfectly, but you release control of the ocean. That makes total sense.
Yeah.
You do the internal work, you build the identity, you take the daily actions, but you detach from dictating exactly when and how the universe delivers the wave.
Yeah. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, when you master that balance between fierce action and profound detachment, the ultimate paradigm shift occurs.
Which is?
You realize the fundamental truth that dismantling that 2006 model leaves behind. You do not attract what you want. You attract what you are.
You attract what you are. That flips the entire universe on its head.
It really does. It redirects all of your wasted energy. Instead of burning calories chasing external validation, you turn all that power inward. You focus 100% of your effort on building the architecture of a person for whom success is simply inevitable.
It's a complete shift from the consumer mindset of waiting for delivery to the creator mindset.
Yeah.
We're building the machine that naturally generates the outcome.
Exactly.
No magic vibrations required, just applied human biology, focused neuroplasticity, and disciplined daily action.
Which brings us to the laboratory portion of this deep dive.
Yes.
Our sources don't just provide theory, they lay down a very specific 7-day challenge to test these mechanisms for yourself.
So to the listener, don't take our word for this. Treat your own brain like an experiment this week. For the next 7 days, the challenge requires 3 things. First, watch your thoughts like a hawk.
Catch those automatic loops of I can't or I am stuck and actively interrupt them.
Second, focus entirely on upgrading your identity rather than obsessing over your desires. Ask who you need to become.
Yeah.
And third, take one single bold action every day that aligns with that new identity.
Just one action a day. But treat the data collection seriously. Observe how your environment shifts when your internal filter changes. Notice the opportunities your RAS suddenly allows through the door.
And keep the seed metaphor in mind. When you take that bold action on Tuesday, do not dig up the soil on Wednesday expecting a fully grown oak tree. Do the work and then detach.
We explore these concepts because understanding the architecture of your own mind is the ultimate leverage. But I always say that knowledge is utterly useless if it remains theoretical. You have to engage the transmission.
Speaking of engaging the transmission, I want to leave you with one final lingering question to mull over as you step away from this deep dive and back into your routine.
Let's hear it.
If the hard science of neuroplasticity proves that your reality today is just a delayed physical reflection of your past repeated thoughts, what unconscious thought did you repeat today that is secretly building your reality for tomorrow?